Hey everyone, so we are back with another video. A few people have requested to hear my birthing story. So I thought that was pretty interesting because I don't think I told too many people about my birthing story and the labor and everything that I went through. So I guess that's something that I can release because, you know, a lot of people do have traumatic birthing stories. And I don't want to say mine was traumatic per se, but it was definitely the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my entire life. So let's go ahead and get into it. We are about to smoke. Oh, we're about to smoke. All right, I got some, I don't even know what the fuck this shit is. I think this is still some lemon cherry runts that I got from a friend. So we're gonna cheers. Oh yeah. That was my first hit of the day, and you know the first hit is always the sweetest. So let's get into it. Obviously, some of you may know or have heard that a lot of times people forget what happens during labor and they forget the pain because your body kind of, you know, represses it, and they want you to keep having kids. So you don't remember the pain and the endurance you had to go through during labor, because if you remember it, you probably wouldn't want to go through it again. And I'm not saying that's happened with everybody. Some people probably have maybe some pain-free, easy births. So if you get that epidural, you know, you're fine, you're set. But with me having a birthing center birth, I didn't have that choice of the epidural. So it was definitely very, very painful. So let me rewind a bit. First and foremost, with the birthing center, I'm not sure if they do this at hospitals, so keep that in mind. My midwives did want me to come up with a birthing plan. So essentially that was, you know, the plan of how they wanted my birth to go. Who do you want to be in the room with you? How do you want to have your birth? Do you want to try different positions? Things of that nature. So I wanted to have a water birth. I wanted Therese to be able to deliver the baby. You know, I didn't want anybody else in the room. I was very adamant on that. I mean, we were in Texas, so we didn't have family members anyways, and I didn't even tell people when I was going into labor because I just didn't want to feel that pressure, like, oh my gosh, is he here yet? Is he here yet? And then everyone's blowing up your phone. I just wanted to just relax. I just wanted to breathe. So I went into labor on Valentine's Day of 2022. My mucus plug came out. If you're not really sure what the mucus plug is, a little bit of TMI, sorry, but it's essentially what it sounds like, a big glob of mucus, blood, other fluids that comes out, and essentially, you know, you're gonna know that's a good sign that labor is gonna be starting soon. So when that happened, I remember it just came out. Like, I was just eating one day and I stood up and then I just felt this glob just come out of me, and I saw it and I knew exactly what it was because I was already preparing for labor, reading other stories. You know, I was in the group chat with other moms who was giving birth in the same month, or supposed to be the same month. I was supposed to be giving birth in March, but I was in the February and the March group chats because something told me my baby was going to come earlier. So I had both group chats and I was, you know, reading other people's stories and seeing how they went through it. So I already knew the mucus plug could be a chance of happening because it doesn't always happen. So when I saw that, I was like, oh shoot, I sent a picture of it to my midwife. I was like, is this my mucus plug? And she was like, yep, looks like it. You know, labor probably is going to be starting soon. Keep me updated. I was like, okay. So not too long after that, maybe about 20 minutes or so, that's when I started getting those bad contractions. I was like, oh shit. So of course I was timing them and they were still pretty spaced out, so it was nothing too crazy. I'm telling Therese because he's at work, you know, he's like, keep him updated. So I'm like, okay. And for the rest of that day on Valentine's Day, it was just on and off contractions. They weren't super back to back. You know, of course they were keeping me up. They were, I would say maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, they were maybe at like a 4-ish range. So nothing too crazy. Kind of just felt like maybe period cramps. But through the night, I kept waking up on and off because it started getting worse, but wasn't close enough. It wasn't ready yet. So now we're on the following day, the 15th. And when I wake up, you know, I'm still having contractions and they're starting to get closer and closer together. They're starting to be painful. I'm like, oh, this is it. Like, I'm timing them. They're about like maybe 3-4 minutes apart. I'm like, all right, let's get ready. We already had the bag packed and, you know, in the car for like weeks ahead of time. and we attempt to make our way to the car to get to the birthing center. But it was so unbearable that I had to keep crouching down like every couple steps because it was just so painful. Then I had to, like, you know, get myself back together, and it was just so hard to walk straight to the car. Mind you, at that time we lived on the 3rd floor, so trying to go down all these steps, and then, you know, Therese pulled up the car, but it was still really hard for me to get to the car. Eventually he just hands me my dad pen, which was really Delta 8, but he hands me my pen. He was like, hey, here you go. Mind you, I hadn't smoked, you know, all the 3rd trimester. Yes, I'm a candle mom. If you don't know about me being a candle mom, that's literally my entire brand. Check out my last vlog that I did that talks about me being a mother who consumes cannabis during pregnancy, breastfeeding, all that good stuff. But I stopped during the 3rd trimester. I didn't need it anymore medicinally after that point. But when, you know, those contractions started, Therese was like, here, just hit the pin. And it worked for like maybe 10 minutes. Maybe. Like, it was enough for me to get to the car and like be in the car for that 35-minute drive because we lived 35 minutes away from the birthing center. So during that time, now we're in traffic. I'm literally feeling like, it feels like this baby is coming. So I get to the birthing center, we rush in. She checks to see how dilated I am, and I'm only 3 centimeters. And you don't give birth until 10. So she was like, yeah, you're not ready yet. What? I couldn't even believe it because that was already, like I said, it was like, it started off being like a 4 when I woke up that day, but then by the time we got to the birthing center, it was maybe at like a 6, like as far as pain. So I was like, oh my gosh. And she was like, yeah, you know, she's not ready yet, but I assume, she was like, if I had to assume, you'll be back here in the middle of the night. So we were like, okay, fuck it. By that point, it was maybe around 5 o'clock or so. So we were like, okay, we need to get a hotel because we weren't going to drive 35 minutes back home and then risk being in traffic or just me not being able to make it in time because we lived kind of far. So we got a hotel that was 5 minutes away. So by the time we get to the hotel and everything, like, my pain's getting worse. As soon as we checked in, by that point it's maybe like 5-ish or so, 5:15. You know, I'm having the contractions. We're counteracting it with the pressure, what we learned in our birthing class that the birthing center had hosted. So Therese was squeezing my hips, you know, doing the things that were supposed to counteract that pain. And it just wasn't working. Like, it was getting worse. And then it was so funny because at the same time he was squeezing my hips, you literally hear a pop, and it was loud, like boom, and then all this fluid just came out. I was like, I think my water just broke. And I think when that happened, oh, that's when it really was just like, I'm not gonna make it. Like, the pain got so bad and the pressure, you feel it. I don't know if you hear about how a lot of women poop during birth because when you feel that pressure and they're telling you to push, you're pushing like you have to take a shit. So you are pushing through your butt, and I felt that because it literally felt like my baby was about to come out of my butthole rather than my vagina. That's where I kept feeling the pressure. And we're on the phone with my midwife. I'm not thinking I'm gonna be able to make it because the pain is so bad. I can't even walk out of this hotel room, get in the elevator because we're on 3rd, 4th floor, however many floors, then walk to the car and then get to the birthing center. I didn't think that was possible. You got Therese running the bathwater in the tub. He was like, you know what, fuck it. If you don't think you're gonna make it, we're gonna set this up right here. Calling my midwife. My midwife is in the background trying to cheer me on. You can do it, Bree. You can get here in time. I'm like, shut the fuck up. I literally hung up on that. I had to hug up. I could not listen to that at that moment. I felt so bad, but I'm sure she understood because, like, she knew I was like, this was like real labor. And I don't know how I did it because we were so close to calling 911, and I don't know, I guess something just motivated me and just said, Bree, get your ass up and try. I'm crawling. I'm literally crawling. Mind you, my water broke, so I lost my pants and my underwear. I didn't come to the hotel with an extra change of clothes because I wasn't expecting, I thought I was going to be giving birth when I came to the birthing center. So I had to wrap a towel around my legs. Meanwhile, I'm leaking plenty of fluids, bloods, juices, a bunch of stuff is coming out of me. I have no pants. I'm crawling on the hotel floor with this towel wrapped around my bottom half of my body. You got Therese just like trying to be patient and help guide me. It's obviously I'm bleeding everywhere because I'm dripping all over the hotel. I feel so bad. surprised they didn't charge us or fine us for anything. And we're walking past people, they're whispering, oh my gosh, she's in labor. And it was just so crazy. And somehow I finally got out that hotel room. I got in the car, because that was the hardest part. I'm like, if I can get in the car, everything else is good, because they can carry me inside the birthing center. So we pull up to the birthing center now. It's like maybe 8-ish or so, 8:30, something like that, because it took me a while to get from the hotel to the car. I was literally probably in that process for like an hour of just being in so much pain, not being able to stand, having to crawl. So a lot of time went by. So it was like maybe 8:30-ish when we pulled up to the birthing center. We get in there, I get straight to the bed, like fuck that tub, like I don't have time for that. I went straight to the bed because I just needed to lay down. She checked me, 10 centimeters, she felt his head. She's like, yep, he's ready. So now it's my midwife in the room. It was like a midwife's assistant, like someone who was training. She was in the room. And there was one more person, I can't remember her role, but she was the one who got down, you know, his birth time and things of that nature. So she kind of like inputted data into their system. So, and then Therese and me. And the way I gave birth, I was on the bed, but I was on my side. I was laying on my left side and my right leg was up on Therese's shoulder. And he's standing on the opposite side. What I do love about, or what I did enjoy about having an unmedicated birth is being able to work with my body. When you get that epidural, you're numb to the pain. So the doctors just tell you to push when, you know, when they say it's time to push. And that can be a little strenuous. You want to push when your body is having those contractions at the same time, so you're working with your baby. So that was cool to pretty much be in control, knowing when, all right, I felt that contraction, I'm pushing at the same time. As soon as the contraction stops, I stop and I get a breather. I pushed maybe a total of definitely less than 10 times. He came up very quickly. Birth, like as far as like pushing, maybe was a total of 15 minutes tops. It went by super quickly. Therese was able to deliver the baby. He said he did come out with the umbilical cord wrap, which I guess is pretty common anyway, so I'm glad I didn't see that, because I probably would have freaked out, because while I was pushing, my midwife was like, do you want to touch his head? Because I guess at that point his head was like breaking through. She's like, do you want to touch his head for some motivation? I was like, nope. Like I didn't think it would be real until I held him in my hands. I guess I felt that if I touched him before he was fully out, I would jinx it or something. I don't know. It was just my anxiety. But besides not having him in the tub, everything else went according to plan, you know. And he came out and he was big, chunky, 9 pounds and 21 inches, and he nursed and latched on properly. It was a euphoric experience, and honestly, pushing felt so good because those contractions are so painful that pushing gives you that release. So I would say a lot of people are so focused on the pushing, when I think you got to really just prepare yourself for those contractions, especially if you are planning to have an unmedicated birth. What else? I'm trying to think if I, you know, put all the pieces together. What they don't tell you a lot though is after you deliver your baby, you have to deliver the placenta, which did I read up on that? I felt like I didn't know, or maybe I did know, but I found out at the last minute. And you think you have that relief when the baby is out, but then it's like a whole new relief when you have to push that placenta out. Like, then you feel like, whoa, all of that was inside of me, and my placenta was huge. And I was just like, how was this baby and this huge ass placenta all within my little body? It was very hard for me to fathom or comprehend, but everything worked out. And at the birthing center, you know, I think when you're in a hospital, you stay sometimes overnight, 2 days, 2-3 days, if you know there's not any complications or anything. There, the requirement was to stay 2 hours after birth, so they could monitor my blood pressure, make sure I'm not losing too much blood, delivering the placenta, like making sure baby's latched on. He had to give him his vitamin K shot, which they did do at, was it vitamin K? I think so. Vitamin K shot at birth, so they were able to do that as well. And by midnight we were home. I gave birth at 9:15 under the full moon, which was funny because apparently my baby was the, I guess, trendsetter of a series of births that happened under that full moon weekend. My baby ends up being an Aquarius sun with a Leo moon. Yeah, he was the first, and they said they had about 5 or 6 babies a total of that entire weekend, which I kind of knew he would come early, just because if y'all know who I am and how in tune I am and in the know I am and just into astrology, I feel like it was very on brand that he ended up being a full moon baby. He came, it was funny because his due date was the new moon in Pisces, but he ended up being born with the full moon in Leo under Aquarius season, which I think I prefer. I think I'm glad he's an Aquarius. I didn't know really much about Aquariuses until he came in the picture, and I love him. And I have a newfound love of Aquarius placements. Having Aquarius with a Leo moon baby is fun. That's all I can say. But that was essentially my birthing story. Afterwards, you know, you got McDonald's because that was the only thing pretty much open at like, you know, 11 o'clock at night. I was back home by midnight. Like, it was just crazy how one moment he was in my stomach and the next moment I'm just looking at him while he's on the couch. And like, what am I supposed to do with you now? Like, how am I supposed to be a mom? And you don't know. You just gotta wake up each and every day and just try your best. But I feel like it comes pretty naturally. It comes pretty easy. Of course, there's difficult days, but there's gonna be fun days as well. So I feel like if you are planning on having a baby, your first baby, you don't know too much about it, which route you're gonna go, I loved having a midwife, and I loved going that route as opposed to a hospital, which of course, you know, hospitals does give you a little bit more security in certain regards because it's a hospital. They have access to a lot more things, so that always does come in handy. But it was beautiful just being able to have a very intimate setting of giving birth and just being the people that I needed to be in that moment. And yeah, I just have no complaints about that. So that was my birthing story. I'm sorry if it was a little underwhelming. I don't know, you know, how these stories are supposed to go per se. If you want to talk about your birthing story below, or if you have any questions about my birthing story, because I probably missed, you know, some pieces. The pain was unbearable. That was definitely the most painful thing I had to experience in my entire life. I'm trying to remember the pain, and like I said, it's blurring out. I can see my brain trying to repress that memory, but I know and I remember in that moment I was saying, how do people do this? Like, how were our ancestors giving birth in the motherfucking woods you know, thousands of years ago? I can't even fathom it. But it was an exciting experience for sure, and I'm grateful that everything happened as it was supposed to with no complications. That full moon definitely charged up something in me, and here I am now with my little full moon canna baby, who's now 14 months about to be, and it's great. He's so smart, he's so kind, he's so gentle, he's just a good baby. And I'm just like, side eye. My baby like rarely ever cries. He might whine because Leo moon, you know, they love their attention, but rarely does he cry. Rarely does he catch an attitude. If I take something away from him, he just finds something else. Like, maybe that's his Aquarius little brain, like constantly just finding something to keep him entertained. But I have no complaints around this way. So that was my birthing story. I filmed some content over these last couple weeks. We did go over to Scottsdale. That is the bougie, rich area of Phoenix where all wealthy folks stay at. And you remember that mansion in the mountain I showed y'all in the last video? We were like, no, we want to see these up close and personal, and we want to manifest, because like, we want to be there as our end game. So we're like, we need to drive around here, get the vibe, and be delusional and pretend like we already live here and have this extravagant lifestyle, because you gotta fake it until you make it. And then also, I am meeting up with a Twitter mutual. We have been mutuals for a few years now, and she lives out here, also a new mom. So I'm excited to see where this goes, because it's already like I know her, like we sent voice memos. So we found out I was moving here. It was like, oh my gosh, a full circle moment. So I will be showing y'all that as well. Let's get into it with the content. So today I'm heading off to brunch with my friend Sayana. We have been Twitter mutuals for a few years now. She's a tarot reader, and she's also a new mom. She just had her baby on Christmas, and this is gonna be her first, you know, girls' day, baby free kind of date day, and I want to make it really special for her. So come along with us to brunch. So we decided to go to Hash Kitchen because we've heard great things about it, and oh my gosh, it was such an experience. The ambiance was great. They had a DJ playing some good ass music, and they had some cool things all over the walls. We waited about an hour, but as you can see, it was definitely poppin'. So, you know, it's her first day outside without the baby, so we definitely had to split a mega glitter bomb mimosa. I think we got pineapple flavored added to it. And of course, we got the bottle of champagne that was included with the cute little pinwheel. Our bartender was super cute and super nice. It's a little hard to tell in this lighting, but the cotton candy is what had the glitter in it to make the drink sparkly. I got the burrito taco hash. My friend got the potato skin hash with some pancakes, and I'm literally still dreaming about it. It was so freaking good. Like, oh my gosh. This spot was definitely a 10 out of 10. So the next day we got up early and took a family car ride over to Scottsdale to manifest our dream life. And if you say you couldn't see us living here, then you're just a fucking hater. Because anyone who knows me and my man knows we are here on this earth to do great things, and we deserve this fucking lifestyle. And we're gonna fucking get it. But let me shut the fuck up and let y'all see these homes. On the way back home, we stopped over at Westgate Entertainment District to drive around and check it out. This area is really popular. It's right next to the State Farm Stadium where the Cardinals play, and right next to the Desert Diamond Arena where they have a lot of concerts. It's very family friendly out here. They have this open lawn where they host live performances. They have little interactive fountains for the kids to play around in. It's somewhere that anybody can find something to do. Different options to eat, shop, drink, all that type of stuff. After a day of driving around, we were super tired, so we just headed home, but of course I had to get some mountain views for y'all. Thank you for watching this video. I cannot wait until the next one. I'll be talking to you guys soon. Love you.